Hello and welcome back to Assetto Corsa for yet another video on the Nordschleife challenge. Thank you very much for joining me in this particular video. Now last week we took out, or I say last time it was a couple of weeks ago, we took out the Ferrari F40, of course the most legendary and iconic of Ferraris, and as expected, it went right to the top of the leaderboard despite having fairly scruffy laps with a 7 minutes 50. Now this is probably not going to be able to get anywhere near that particular time, but I think that this car is going to be fairly high up on the leaderboard. So this is the Nissan 370Z Nismo from 2015. This has a V6 engine producing 339 brake horsepower at 7,400 RPM, 273 foot-pounds of torque or 371 Newton meters at 5,200 RPM, and all of that goes to the rear wheels through a 6-speed manual transmission. So this car is one of those sporty cars that I like. It's rear wheel drive, it's a manual transmission, it doesn't have too much power, but it is going to be one of those that is going to be interesting to drive because of the shape. Front engine, so you're going to have a heavy front end, a lighter rear end. We might end up with a lot more sliding because of that. Because the front tyres will grip, the rear tyres holding the power and everything might slide just like BMWs do. This could be rather interesting. Top speed on this car is stated to be 155 miles per hour with a 0 to 60 or 0 to 62 of 5.2 seconds. So for those working in metric units, that's 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. Weight on this car, curb weight anyway, I believe comes in at 1.5 tons thereabouts, 1,500 kilograms, which works out to be about 3,300 pounds. And the tyres on this car at the front are 245 40R19s and on the rear 285 35 R19, so fairly wide rear tyres. I think about right for the power, although I think the front tyres maybe slightly too wide, maybe 235s would be better, and I think the 19-inch wheels look okay, although personally just looking at this I'm thinking maybe the 18-inch wheels would look a little bit better, but nevertheless there isn't much in it. I do like this car a little bit more than its predecessor, the 350Z. I think the 350Z looked a little goofy, I suppose. It just looked like the shapes they'd thought out part of the shapes and then not the rest of them, so it looks a bit strange. But this is much better. And one thing I forgot to tell you about the V6 engine is that it is a 3.7 litre engine, which is a bit strange. You do not often get a 3.7 litre engine. It isn't one that you normally come across or you normally see. But there you go. And is there anything else I need to tell you? I've told you the engine's at the front. Oh, naturally aspirated, no turbos on this, so we should have instant throttle response, unlike the Ferrari last time out. As usual, I'm going to do a couple of laps of practice with this car. I think last time I drove this car was when I was reviewing it a few years ago. So I'm going to do a couple of laps practice around this on Patreon. And then what you guys are going to see next is the actual laps, 2 or 3 of them, where I will try and get this as fast as I can. As you can see on screen right now is the lap time. So you can see the Ferrari is currently in the lead, followed by the Dodge Viper, 7 seconds, over 7 seconds behind it. Then the Roof CTR Yellowbird. Now I think those 3 are going to be untouchable. Where I think this car could come in, I've got a feeling maybe around the RX-7, 6th place, maybe 5th, 6th place, maybe not 5th, but I think 6th place might be possible for this. I've got a feeling this is faster than a Skyline, and the BMW 1M Coupe is where I'm thinking. I suppose there's only one way to find out, so let's get started. Okay, here we go. Now, unfortunately, I have had to restart this because there was a slight problem for some reason with this, with my car, where I bumped the wall, and it just completely bent the suspension, like completely. I ended up with a car with one wheel that would make a Stance Nation rather proud. So here we go with another lap. It's probably going to be a little scruffy on the first lap. Of course, the first lap is going to not end up counting because of, well, the fact that it is a number of seconds out of whack. But this car, now first of all, in Assetto Corsa, the sound of this car is phenomenally good. It's very loud though, and I'm not sure if it will sound quite like this inside, but this is what I have. The second thing to point out, as you might have seen, is that this car seems to spark a lot. It's as if it scrapes on the ground a lot, and I am not sure why. I'm also being distracted by my computer. There's something funny going on with my lighting setup on my computer. I'm not sure if something's eating processing power or something, aside from Assetto Corsa, of course. That started a few days ago, and I need to figure out what on earth is going on. I'm going to have to try and open my computer up at some point and just try and figure out, is it just maybe it's just the lighting strips and everything else is running fine. I just hope this isn't indicative of another problem. There you go, more scraping, as you can see. Oh, and a spin. Okay, now I hope this doesn't mess up the wheels, because this is what happened last time. No, the wheel seems fine. Okay, great. That's absolutely fine. I'm actually having to record this the next day because the day I was recording this, I just didn't have time to redo what I was trying to do. So I'm having to record this the next day. I really like the this car is naturally aspirated. The throttle response on this car is pretty much instantaneous, and I really do like that. The thing is, if you drive a turbocharged car, you might get used to the slight delay in throttle, which is absolutely fine. You know, I get used to it in my car. You have a very slight delay. No matter how, there's more sparking. No matter how good the turbocharged car is, you are going to feel a slight delay, unless you have something like a hybrid motor that compensates for that delay, because those are the kind of things that they do nowadays. But I think that takes away from the driving experience. A car like this though, it's just, everything is very instant, and I really like that instant feel from this car. No ABS, no traction control, of course. And the lap time, as I said, I was expecting, I'm talking about around the BMW 1M Mazda RX-7, so between 8:15, 8:17, that's the sort of lap time we're trying to get. That being said, the practice that I did give me slight cause for concern, as yeah, the lap time that I got in practice, albeit not, you know, the fastest, was not quite where I thought it would be. So there is that. Now, upsides to this car, of course, are the instant throttle response, the sound. It looks really nice inside. It does still have a nice Nissan look. There is something about this that does make it unmistakably Nissan at the moment. Now I cannot quite place my finger on what exactly it is. I cannot point it out. That it's this that makes it look Nissan. Whether it's the font or that the speedometer itself just reminds me very much of the older Nissans. Nothing's really changed there. I think it's just the font as well. This very easily Nissan. Power on this car is very easily transferred to the rear wheels. I think one of the things that might lead to is one of the downsides that I want to talk about, and that downside is you really have to be pushing this car well beyond its limit for you to, or do something silly like I did earlier coming up that blind crest where I spun the car. You need to be really incompetent at driving to be able to crash this car, or really pushing a ridiculous amount, as I said, beyond the car's limits. This car is one of those cars where to drive it at 95% is really easy. It's that last 5% that's difficult, but anyone can drive, or maybe not even 95, even more than 95. It's the last maybe 2% that's difficult. This car does everything for you, particularly if you had traction control and ABS on. Then you really wouldn't be worrying about anything. I could just floor it out of every corner, and I'd say 99 times out of 100 this car would just stick. It wouldn't even spin. So because of that, it doesn't feel, it reminds me very much of the R35, the Nissan GTR. It reminds me of that simply because there's a difference in Nissan from the past. Okay, so it doesn't like curbs at all. In Nissan from the past, like the R34 and R33, which are still surprisingly easy cars to drive, but they are quite mechanical still. You can still feel the mechanical sensations on cars like that. To this car, which is, you can sort of feel electronics controlling it. That like the entire car seems to be based around electronics, and even with everything off, the car still feels like it has a significant amount of electronic assistance. So that's the feeling on this. Let's see if we can get a proper lap in, of course. Top speed 155 miles per hour, so we should be able to reach that here. I think you can go faster, to be fair. There's 150. 152 on the grass. 153, 154 I saw there. Yeah, I think 155 would be quite easy. One of the things I will give this car is its brakes are really nice. Very nice brakes. So that first lap was a 9 minutes 40, obviously, with all the other bits and bobs. And let's see what we get this time around. So it's telling me an 837. That's another thing I had brake. I had that Performance Delta brake on me for some reason. Make sure you do not lock up, so you have enough. You want to make sure you have enough enough grip to actually turn the car into these corners. That is really important to have that. Third gear is good through all of this. There we go. And we'll just continue on. Now you can see from the lap time, 8:37 is what it's telling me. Yes, there was a crash, but 8:37 still is not a fast lap time. The crash would have cost me what, 10 seconds? So 8:26 at the moment. That's the same as the R34 Skyline, which I felt like I could have got around faster. So things to consider things to definitely consider. Missed the apex there. Gear shifts are nice and slick on this car. No rev hang, which is very, very nice. No crashing this time. Let's make up all those seconds and see what we can do. Second gear through this. Should really avoid touching those curbs going around them. Maybe get close to them, maybe not touch them. At the moment, 8 minutes 29. Look at that. Not very fast. One thing I do like about this car is in corners like that, it's very easy to trail brake. But again, the downside to that is that it feels like I'm not having to put too much effort in overall with this car, which feels strange, I think. Now, I can get the back of the car to slide. I've done this a few times, but it just doesn't feel like I'm having to give it all too much effort, which is problematic. There, the car wanted to step out. I felt the car there just not biting into the ground. That's probably the first bit where I felt the car not biting, not doing quite what I want it to do. Again, 8 minutes 29. It isn't fast. Okay, admittedly, I can probably go faster, but how much faster is the big question. 8 minutes 25, maybe 24 on these street tires. Potentially. It just doesn't. Little bit of trail braking once again. Well, really, it's not. That wasn't so much trail braking. That was just a squirrely back end of the car when I was braking. Obviously, all the weight is on the front then, because obviously the weight transfer, everything pitches forward. The back wheels, you start braking traction, so you then brake traction, you lose braking performance on the rear. As you do that, you have to press the brakes harder, therefore you start locking up, and then the back of the car starts wobbling as you start doing that if you're not perfectly straight. So that's nice though, to actually have something that you have to do with this car. Because so far there isn't much, as I said, there really is not much I'm doing to get this car going where I want it to go. Into the carousel. Whoops, out of the carousel. That was bad. Okay, that's going to lose us time. Slightly too fast through there. Maybe a third lap then. I think it would be fair because the first lap was a bit wonky, but still, I mean, it could be. I'm not sure I can get much more out of this. Third gear's fine through all of this. So in through here with a little bit more speed. Third gear, let it bite. Up to fourth, slide it through. Again with the scraping and the sparking for some bizarre reason. Just got to slow it down here. This is the one corner that you can really lose a lot of time, and this corner here you can then spin very easily. I mean, we've seen loads of people spin here on that what's that channel that can no longer do it? Auto Addiction? Is that what it was called? Again, just catching it is, I'm not having to really work at the wheel. yes, I'd say this isn't quite as fast as I would want it to be, but I'm not having to work too much for this lap. Apart from there. Okay, maybe that was a slight bit of work. Curse of the commentator? Potentially? There we go. Okay, we're past the skyline now, I think. Yes, we are past the skyline. 826.066. The skyline was 826.620, I think. Again, not 100% sure. I'll check on the straight. 826.426, not 620, 426. And we're currently going to the 25s there. So we are faster than our 34 Skyline. But this isn't quite as engaging to drive. This is not as engaging to drive at all. 49. Go on, push it. 50, 51, 52, 53. Now we'll shift. So we really need to push right the way up there. 55, 56. That seems like a good place to start. Hitting the brakes, and again. Okay, 825.10. Not exactly a good lap time, I'll be honest. Let's do one more. Let's see what happens. Of course, this is normally the lap where I mess things up because I push just a little too hard. But that's the point in these sorts of things. It's just to push as much as you can, just to see what can be taken out of a car. At my skill level and how much whatever practice I do. So if I can take another second out of it, then so be it. If I cannot, then so be it. Doesn't really matter. Point is, this isn't going to beat the 1M, and the 1M was definitely a much better car to drive than this. This just feels like you can just push a lot more, but not because you're driving the car, it's because the car is driving you. That's just what it feels like. And that's the part I'm not keen on. Should have slowed down just a little bit more there. It's a little bit more speed carried through all of this. There we go. Try not to touch the curb on this side. Still touch it just, but not a lot. So it allows us to get on the accelerator nicely. It's only 0.2 of a second. How about that then? There is a little bit of understeer in this car, you can feel it, but not a lot. Certainly not as much as you would. In fact, I said certainly not as much as you would think. Actually, you wouldn't really think of having much in the way of understeer for a car like this, but it just... This corner I can pick up time in. There we go. So can I in this corner. Now I knew those two had something, but still it isn't a lot. I'm really pushing this car as much as I can. Bits more in the way of trail braking there. Scraping on the ground. Again, that isn't ideal. It's just, it's scraping, and then obviously when it scrapes it causes the car to judder about and not quite do things as you want it to, which is what we're experiencing here, or what we're experiencing on some of the corners. So we're in the 24s. Maybe on a perfect run I could get it into the 22s. That's about it. Unless there's some major amount of time that I'm losing in the next sector. Not next sector, sorry, on the rear half of the course. So the more technical section, which is admittedly where I would probably lose most of my time, would be around that area. Should have just committed on that, which I did not, unfortunately. Did commit better through there. It is good on the brakes. It is definitely really, really good on the brakes. Let's try and get carousel a little bit better this time. There's some time. Is that still 6 seconds off a 1M, and the 1M was a harder car to drive. I'll tell you that now. The 1M was a much harder car to drive than this one. This is easy compared to the 1M. As you can see, I am pushing this car now. I'm really trying my best to get a solid lap time out of a car like this, which isn't happening really. It's now starting to, yeah, we're losing traction. I need to slow down just a little and stop pushing that tiny bit extra, because it is going over the limit. Calm it down just a little. There we go. So there, I probably lost about half a second just trying very hard to keep it where I need it to be and how I want it to be, but gaining some of it back here, as you can see. Slightly across the grass, that's okay. Come on, turn in, turn in. Sometimes the car just feels like it doesn't want to turn. Oh, early in the mini carousel, but again, this hasn't been the cleanest of laps, but it still isn't much. There still isn't much in this lap and the last one, really. So we have, I could probably get another couple of tenths, so I could bring this another second higher, but this isn't, this is actually I'm going to leave it in fifth. Let's see what happens. 151, 151, 152, 153. Now shift it. It does help. And this here I can gain some time. There we go. You just see there how much I gained. Because this car, I'll give it something. It's very, very good on the brakes. 123.72. I think that's probably the best I'm going to get out of this car. So that's probably going to go up on screen right now. That slots it in ahead of the Skyline GTR, remembering that the Skyline GTR is going to be going again, and it's probably going to get a lot faster than it currently is. So that car is going to be going again, and I am going to be obviously doing more practice with those cars to ensure that I can get what I want. I am tempted to try and bring this car up even higher, but I just feel like it's just going to sit in that area. The fastest it's going to go is another second or two, and that is still behind the 1M, of which I felt like that was actually a really nice lap. So there you go. That is where the car goes. Now, in terms of drivability, now that is where this car, I think, suffers, because it's supposed to be a fast car, which clearly it isn't compared to the cars around it. As I said, I was expecting 1M style around here in terms of speed. So where does it go on the drivability? It sounds good. The throttle response and the brakes are brilliant. But when it comes to the actual feel of driving, you know, getting it around corners and things like that, it isn't quite as I suppose it isn't quite as engaging as maybe I would be wanting it to be. It just feels a little bit timid, maybe is the right response for it. And as you can see, whilst I'm talking, I'm going even faster. Maybe I'll change that lap time. I'm not too sure. There is a potential for me to change that lap time to something even faster. But again, it's a second, maybe another second on the second half. It isn't really going to do anything. I'm very uncertain as to where to place this car. It's definitely not as good to drive as, you know, it isn't anywhere on that top, in that top part of the list. I just do not think it belongs there, because it just doesn't feel like those kind of cars. What this feels like more so is it feels like a bit like the Porsche Macan, where it's a fast car, or fast-ish car, but it doesn't take any real effort to get it there. And that's in the wall. Ouch. It doesn't take any real effort to get the car to that point, but it does feel better than the Macan because it's lower, and it has that better eye line. I think, to be honest, I feel like a Toyota GT86 feels better than this to drive. I think obviously it's nowhere near as fast, it's just bits more engaging. So wherever the GT86 is it 13th place or something like that? This is better than the Audi Quattro. So I think this will fit in, again, I'm doing this from memory, probably around the 15th place or thereabouts. So I'll put this up on screen now anyway. And that is where I think this car goes. And it's just simply because it feels like there's a computer controlling a lot of it, and that's the part that lets this car down, is that computer controlling part of the car. The rest of the car is, I suppose, pretty good. It is pretty good aside from that part. I'm so tempted to complete this lap. just because it's another 1.5 seconds up, and it could be interesting to see how close I can get to the how close I can get to the BMW. So I might as well just complete this lap. But at least I've told you where it goes for the driver. Whoa. Okay, maybe not. Right, well that's that lap gone. Never mind. Well, I'm not going to complete this lap. That's what happens when you're trying to find the files, the scoreboard, and trying to look at where is the other one. Mouse in one hand, steering wheel in the other, and then try and swap between that for your gears. But there you go. That is that. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit the like button if you like this video. Subscribe to the channel for more videos on Assetto Corsa and the Nordschleife challenge. Leave a comment in the comments box below letting me know what you think. Did you think this car was going to be faster than it is? Because I most certainly did. Also, if you can do so, please do consider supporting me on Patreon at www.patreon.com/ECGadget. Your sports would be massively appreciated. It would really help me out. And also, you can find me on social media at ECGadgetLP for both Twitter and Instagram. That is all from me, and I will see you next time in Assetto Corsa for yet another video on the Nordschleife challenge.